Okay. So, so people, one very interesting thing is, you see, they have, this is like, this should be like the beginning of carbohydrate metabolism, okay, but they have given this ethanol metabolism prior the carbohydrate metabolism. If you go back in your Lippincott book, um, page number, have I opened Lippincott? Yes. Okay, so I will share you the link of Lippincott book as well if you want it. So in your Lippincott book, this is your page number 92. This is the favorite page of mine from this book. Okay, Lippincott. So when I was in the medical school, I used to learn this page completely, and I used to work on the metabolism from this chart. This is a summary of all the carbohydrate and all the protein and fat metabolism. So here I want to show you this one thing here. So you see, this is the cycle of glycolysis, which is started. What is glycolysis? Like, first of all, you should know what if you break these words, what they become, right? So when I'm saying glycolysis, this glyco means I'm talking about this glycogen. Okay, glycogen is a polymer. um, Glucose is a monomer. Okay, it is a, they both are carbohydrates, but one is simpler and one is complex. So glycogen is a complex form. Okay, so it is a stored form in our body. So when we are in our fasting state, we use our stored carbs inside our body, and that stored carb is glycogen, which breaks down into simpler compound, that is a glucose. Okay, so glycolysis means breakdown of glycolysis of glycogen, and when glycogen is broken down into a smaller compound, it gives glucose. Okay, and then this glucose is metabolized into a product called pyruvate via these 10 steps. Okay, and then this in this whole cycle of glycolysis, like from here to here, this is glycolysis only. Okay, this is only glycolysis. So in in this whole procedure, okay, we get some ATPs, which are energy molecules. Okay, those ATPs are important for other functions of our body. Okay, so this is the whole mechanism, and then they all are interconnected with each other. So this glycolysis enters into another cycle, which is TCA cycle. Okay, or we call it citric acid cycle or TCA cycle. So you see, now the product of glycolysis was pyruvate, and then this product is forming another substrate for the TCA cycle, which is acetyl CoA. Okay, and then this enters into this cycle, and then this is another cycle. So these all are interconnected to each other. If I like clear this dirt, so you see glycolysis enters into TCA cycle, then this TCA cycle is entering into urea cycle. Okay, from this oxaloacetate. Okay, it is entering into urea cycle, and you see this fumarate written over here, and you see this, so they are like proteins. So this this heme biosynthesis is entering into TCA cycle 2, and the fatty acid synthesis is entering into TCA cycle 2. Synthesis and degradation is entering in here. Okay, similarly, if we go up, let me show you that we have this galactose metabolism. Okay, that is entering into this glycolysis cycle, and then we have this fructose metabolism entering into glycolysis cycle. Okay, we have this HMP shunt, and we have this what we can say, the the HMP shunt and the RBC pathway. Like everything is entering into, so the main two cycles we have is glycolysis and TCA. Okay, so most of the questions are being asked on these cycles. So you have like, I will not say that please learn all these steps. Okay, that was a thing when you were studying the whole biochemistry in your medical school. But like if you're studying, if you're like now in your license examinations or in any other board examinations of any country, okay, so regardless of the country, they don't ask you the steps, they ask you the clinical aspects of these. Okay, so in your first aid is basically a clinical book, so it has the important clinical aspects to all these metabolisms, and we will be looking onto those core parts rather than uh, studying every single step. Okay, so like this was a kind of an overview of your metabolism cycles. Now I will try and take you to, there is another page which is page number, I think it is by the end of this chapter, I don't remember the page. Here it is. So now you see, because we are studying the ethanol pathway, ethanol metabolism, okay, some things are just not written here. Okay, if like, for say for example, from where this ethanol is coming from, or from where this acetaldehyde is coming from. Okay, what is the link of this ethanol metabolism to your carbohydrate cycle? So let me tell you, uh, if you go back to your this basic book and you have this picture, okay, now from your Lippincott, you see this is pyruvate, which is your product of glycolysis cycle. The last step of glycolysis cycle is the formation of pyruvate. Okay, and then this pyruvate has four fates. Okay, we call it fate. Fate is like, in Urdu we call it kismat. Okay, so this pyruvate has four fates. First fate is it is converted to lactate. Okay, it is converted to lactate. The second fate is it is converted to oxaloacetate. The third fate is it is converted to acetyl CoA. And then the fourth fate is it is converted to ethanol. So you should know that pyruvate has four fates. Okay, its end result is like it will not be remain as pyruvate, it will convert into other products. So if it is converting into lactate, okay, let's say for example, if it is converting to lactate, what lactate is doing? Have you heard of lactic acidosis? When your body is in uh, too much workout, okay, when you have, when you are non-oxygen dependent doing workout, okay, or we can say in our medical terminologies, when you are having anaerobic respiration. Okay, aerobic respiration requires oxygen, but when you are so tired and the oxygen is like quietly consumed, and there is a point when your muscle starts to fatigue and you feel muscle pain. So basically that muscle pain is because of this lactic acid that is being converted into. Okay, so now if you see, if we talk about this lactic acid, where it comes from, so your the end result of your pyruvate, okay, gives this lactate. So when your body do not have enough oxygen, or when your body is deprived of oxygen, okay, in state of extraneous exercise, or in case of, you know, low oxygen output to your brain or to your muscles or to your organs of the body, to in heart patients, and like respiratory problem patients, and in your neurological, certain neurological diseases like stroke or aneurysms or etc etc, in such patients, when the blood flow or when the organs do not get enough oxygen, okay, because how oxygen is carried to our organs or to our blood, via RBCs, right? So when you when you have any blood flow disorder, you know, there is an obstruction, or there is a thrombus, or there is, you know, a constriction or aneurysm or anything, okay, some turbulence or plaque inside, even atherosclerosis. So in all those cases, you go in muscle fatigue too, because your muscles are deprived of oxygen. So that we call anaerobic respiration. Okay, and in anaerobic respiration, the product is formed is lactate, or we can say lactic acid. So always remember where it comes from. It comes from pyruvate, and pyruvate is the end product of glycolysis. Okay, so one thing is lactate. Now oxaloacetate, this is very important to know and understand where oxaloacetate is going. Okay, let me lower this picture. So now you see, one more thing. Let me take you back to the first aid. And okay, see this chart. This is also your first aid. You can also open in your book, or just see it on your screen. Okay, so you see this pathway, the arrows going downwards, this is glycolysis, and the end product is pyruvate. And then you see pyruvate is converted to lactate, and pyruvate is being converted to oxaloacetate here too. Now when this pyruvate is being converted to oxaloacetate, this oxaloacetate is a substrate, um, is is a substrate for your, is a product of your TCA cycle, but a substrate for another cycle, which is this cycle going upwards. This is very important to understand. Now let me make it like this. Okay, okay, now if you can see, this arrow coming downwards is glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis. If you understand this picture, you will understand so many things. Okay, and this arrow going upwards is gluconeogenesis. It is already written up here. Okay, gluconeogenesis. Okay, gluconeogenesis means formation of glucose from other than carbohydrates. Please understand, neo, N-E-O, neo means new substance. Okay, neo means new substance. Now that new substance is not carbohydrate, it is not fructose, it is not galactose. Okay, fructose and galactose are also sugars, they are also carbs, but we are synthesizing glucose from other substances like lipids, like proteins. Okay, so when we talk about gluconeogenesis, they are starting from lipid and protein. Now you see this is a lipid metabolism, and you see the glycerol, the triglycerides, they are entering into this cycle, and they're forming this fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, and then it goes up and it will form glucose. Similarly, the protein metabolism enters into TCA cycle. You know, this methylmalonyl CoA, we already studied this in B12. It enters into TCA cycle, it is converted to succinyl CoA, this goes on, it reaches to the oxaloacetate, this oxaloacetate enters into your gluconeogenesis, and it goes all the way up and form glucose, Are you getting? If you're not understanding, please ask me once again. This is very important picture. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is when you go downwards from glucose to pyruvate, it is glycolysis. Like you're breaking down glycogen into glucose. But when you are going from pyruvate to glucose, you're going upwards. The arrow is in the opposite direction. You're going upwards. So that thing is called gluconeogenesis. All these steps are same, only the direction is different. Okay, only the direction is different. Remember this. And if someone asks you ever what is gluconeogenesis, you should know we are not making glucose from carbs. We are making glucose from lipid and protein. That is why we called it gluconeo, Neo, neo, okay, new substance. Okay, now if you see this pyruvate is being converted to oxaloacetate, okay, this oxaloacetate in turn is entering into gluconeogenesis, and it is converting into a compound which is called phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay, just see these little things. Pyruvate entering into oxaloacetate, oxaloacetate entering back into phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay, so this oxaloacetate is also a part of TCA cycle, and this oxaloacetate is entering into this gluconeogenesis pathway too. So this was one fate, lactate. This is the second fate, oxaloacetate. Okay, and then we have a third fate, which is acetyl CoA. And you all know about acetyl CoA. Acetyl CoA enters into the TCA cycle. Okay, then we have a fourth fate, and that is this pyruvate is converting into a compound called acetaldehyde. It is not written over here, but it is converting into acetaldehyde. This is, and then this acetaldehyde is converting into ethanol. So this is the fourth fate. Okay, these things are very important to understand. Okay, let me take back to the book. So if when we come back to this book, we see this is oxaloacetate. I was talking to you about. This oxaloacetate will be converted to phosphoenol pyruvate, and then phosphoenol pyruvate will go into your gluconeogenesis. So this is your second fate of pyruvate. The first fate was lactate, the second fate is oxaloacetate. So I think you should be clear about oxaloacetate now. Now the third fate of your pyruvate is acetyl CoA. We all know acetyl CoA enters into TCA cycle. Okay, and we will study TCA cycle in detail, so I'm not touching TCA cycle right now. Okay, we all know the acetyl CoA enters into TCA cycle. Then we have this fourth important fate of pyruvate, which is our main topic right now, is ethanol metabolism. So now you see the acetaldehyde is coming from pyruvate. This pyruvate is first of all converted to acetaldehyde, and then this acetaldehyde is converted to ethanol. One more thing you should know over here is, do you see this little thing, little buddy written in the bracket? What it is? It is thiamine PP. What is PP? It is pyrophosphate. Okay, so this is TPP. And if you remember the first lecture of my vitamins, when we studied vitamin B1, I told you vitamin B1 has its role in thiamine pyrophosphate. It is a cofactor for thiamine pyrophosphate. So it means that in this step, vitamin B1 is working as a cofactor too. So now you correlate your vitamins that you have studied with your metabolism too. So see, pyruvate is converting to acetaldehyde. There is an enzyme, a cofactor, coenzyme called thiamine pyrophosphate, which uses vitamin B1. Okay, so make things easy and make things clear. Let's go back to our first aid, and now you see, now it is easier for you to understand that this is acetaldehyde, and this acetaldehyde is they have made a mistake over here. Okay, the mistake is both, they draw both of the arrows towards acetaldehyde. It's not like this. Okay, it's a reversible reaction. It's a reversible reaction. So acetaldehyde can be converted to ethanol, and ethanol can be converted to acetaldehyde. Okay, so it is like this. So this is like a reversible reaction, so I can make it this way too. So you can correct this mistake in your book. Okay, there are this is a double arrow reaction. Okay, so when this acetaldehyde is coming from pyruvate, it will form ethanol, just as you have seen in your main textbook, Lippincott. Okay, the product will be ethanol, but in certain cases, you will see that ethanol will be converting to acetaldehyde via two steps, two different steps rather than this one. Okay, and that will be when you're getting this NADPH or NADP from your electron transport chain, ETC. Okay, and you will give reactive oxygen species that will be, you know, in your microsome, that will be helping killing bacteria. Okay, and then you see in your peroxisome, you will be converting your hydrogen peroxide into water. So hydrogen peroxide is also a very important product that kills bacteria, and you will be studying it in general pathology. There's a whole pathway to kill bacteria, and you convert your oxygen to your superoxide. Okay, and then your superoxide is converted into another compound, and then it is converted into HOCl. So it is another story. Okay, I'll not go in detail of it, but in order to make you understand the most of this book, you have to remember these drugs. Okay, for your exam purposes. Now for your let's talk about your exam purposes. What is important here is can you see my screen? Yes, okay. So what is important for the exam purposes is these drugs, okay? These drugs that are inhibiting these enzymes that are converting these products. So let's read what it is written, that we see this drug fomepizole, okay? We use these drugs in hospital setups. Fomepizole blocks alcohol dehydrogenase, DH is dehydrogenase, okay? And it is an antidote for overdoses of methanol and ethylene glycol. Now, do you know in hospitals, um, we commonly use a term spirit, which is also used to clean the patient's wounds. Okay, we the one that we called that the one that is present in alcohol swabs. If you go to any dispensary and you ask them, give me some alcohol swab, so it is for cleaning before injecting the patient. It is like you're de-infecting the patient. So spirit is basically ethanol. Okay, spirit is basically ethanol, this ethanol. And ethanol is wine. It is alcohol. Ethanol is wine. So there are patients who are actually alcohol addicted. So previously, there was this ethanol. The spirit was entirely made up of ethanol that we use in hospitals, and it has been reported that in hospital setups, patients do drink ethanol in order to they are like alcohol addictive, and they don't get alcohol, so they drink ethanol instead of alcohol. So then what the pharmaceutical companies did, they added ethanol plus methanol. So now in the spirit that is present in your hospitals, they have ethanol and methanol, and methanol is not so good in taste, so now it's like spared. So uh, anyways, there are patients, we also call it, like, if you have, I don't know if you have ever heard of these terminologies like kachi sharab and pakki sharab. So though they say it like that, so they are basically the kachi and pakki one. Okay, so uh, whatever. So you should know that if you encounter any patient who has this overdose of this kachi sharab and pakki sharab, the methanol and ethanol glycol, give that patient fomepizole. Fomepizole is your drug of choice. Okay, so this is an important MCQ. This is an important MCQ. Okay, what fomepizole will do, it will inhibit alcohol dehydrogenase, and ethanol will not be converted to acetaldehyde. Okay, so it will stop the metabolism at the very first step. So the antidote is fomepizole. So remember, the antidote for ethanol or methanol is fomepizole. Okay, then we have another drug which is called disulfiram. Okay, disulfiram inhibits this or blocks this enzyme called acetaldehyde dehydrogenase. This enzyme converts acetaldehyde into acetate. Okay, so what is the importance of acetate now? The importance of acetate is it can cross your blood-brain barrier. It can cross. It is present in your blood from mitochondria. It goes into your bloodstream. Okay, from it like comes out from the cell. It can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it can affect your brain and can show all these symptoms of drinking. Okay, all these symptoms of drinking, that you lose your self-control, you are being abusive, or you are being like you're talking shit. So all that things that goes on, you become euphoric. Okay, all these drinking symptoms are because of this acetate, which is the product of ethanol metabolism. Okay, and this thing is formed in mitochondria level. Okay, but this thing is in cytosol level. So you have this cell. Okay, let's say for example this is your cell, and in your cell you have, this is nucleus. So everything which is present here is cytoplasm. Okay, is cytoplasm. And then in here you have this mitochondria, you have this Golgi apparatus, you have peroxisomes. So all these are like cell organelles. So mitochondria is another cell organelle. Okay, so in that acetate is formed. So the important thing you need to remember is disulfiram is inhibiting, is blocking this step, and there will be no acetate. Okay, when there will be no acetate, what will happen? When this step is blocked, acetaldehyde levels will increase. Okay, when acetaldehyde levels will increase, remember the opposite step, ethanol levels will increase. Now what will happen? If you want your patient to stop drinking, you are treating a patient who is alcohol addictive, and you want your patient not to drink alcohol, what you will do, you will give disulfiram. It will increase the symptoms of drinking in a patient without giving him alcohol. Are you getting my point? You are giving alcohol to a patient, and the patient is showing the hangover symptoms. But you are not giving alcohol to the patient, and you are increasing those hangover symptoms by a drug. which is disulfiram. So disulfiram is used to stop the drinking habits, but fomepizole is given to decrease the symptoms of an alcohol or an ethanol overdose. So there are two drugs, and they have different mechanisms. One is decreasing the symptoms. It is blocking this pathway so that acetaldehyde will not increase. Okay, acetaldehyde will decrease. When you will block this pathway, acetaldehyde will be low, low, low. There will be no more symptoms. Getting my point? No more symptoms means the overdose is counteracted, and now the patient will get back to a better, better, state, and no more hangover symptoms, and no more overdose side effects. But when we are giving the patient this disulfiram, it is blocking this step and it is increasing the level of acetaldehyde. Please understand this. These two are your very important MCQs. They can ask you directly, what is the antidote for methanol, or what is the antidote for ethylene glycol, and your answer will be fomepizole. Okay, they can ask you which drug inhibits alcohol dehydrogenase. So you can learn it also. Fomepizole inhibits alcohol dehydrogenase. But they can ask you which drug will increase the acetaldehyde levels. Okay, which is the drug that is given for the increased symptoms of methanol that will increase the acetaldehyde levels. Now, they have not asked the question directly. This is an indirect question. So you should know three things about fomepizole. Now make a summary. Okay, the number one thing, remember which enzyme it is blocking. Number two, remember it is given for the overdose. Okay, number 2 point. And then number 3 point, the acetaldehyde will, we are only talking about fomepizole, right? The acetaldehyde will decrease. So three things, remember three things about fomepizole. Number one, inhibiting alcohol dehydrogenase. Number two, antidote for the overdose of methanol and ethylene glycol. Number three, acetaldehyde levels will decrease. And what will be the result? No more hangover symptoms. Okay, now let's come to disulfiram. Again, three things you need to remember about disulfiram. Number one, it inhibits or blocks acetaldehyde dehydrogenase. Okay, number two, when it will be blocked or inhibited, the levels of acetaldehyde will increase. Okay, and number three, it is used in discouraging drinking. Means you are giving it as in to stop the patient from drinking habits. So this is a good drug. This is also a good drug. Okay, so discouraging drinking, you are giving disulfiram. So please remember 3 points for fomepizole, 3 points for disulfiram, and your MCQs will never go wrong in ethanol metabolism. Okay, now and another point is NAD is the limiting reagent. Okay, so now you see when you are giving NAD, like what you're not giving, basically what is happening is this NAD comes from electron transport chain, right? So ethanol is being converted to acetaldehyde. This NAD is coming from electron transport chain. Okay, it is giving this hydrogen into for this ethanol, and like that hydrogen, let's say for example, is added in this structure. Okay, and that is why you see the enzyme name is dehydrogenase. That is, we are removing one hydrogen, so we are removing it from here. Okay, but if I say like now this NAD is like this NADH is like too much. when your NADH is too much, NAD will not be converted to NADH. Okay, when the product is too much, it will not be converted in here. So you are taking NAD as a limiting reagent too. But this will not be asked in your exams, in your PMDC, but for the students who are like preparing for lab or USMLE or any other exam, so yes, this is a crucial step, so you should know. Okay, in here, everywhere, it is a limiting reagent. Now, this is all about your MCQs. Then there is another point written that alcohol dehydrogenase operates by a zero order kinetics. So hold on to this thought. I will like kind of explain you what is a zero order and what is a one order kinetic. It is your pharmacology topic. So we will discuss it in pharmacology, that what happens in a zero order and what happens in a first order. So this is just a mechanism of action of your zero order kinetics. Okay. Now, the next thing, I hope you're clear. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I want to take metabolism not so fast because I know it's very difficult to understand. So we will not take it really fast. And people, we have this less than 1 minute left, so you can join one more time, so that we may complete this ethanol metabolism today. Okay, so that tomorrow we go on to our carbohydrate cycles, glycolysis and gluconeogenesis and so on. Okay, so I want to cover this page today. Okay, so please, if the lecture stops, please join again from the link that is given in your WhatsApp group, the same group. Okay. So now you see,